In 2015, a well-known British actor was asked what he would say if he ever stood before God. He replied that he would ask how a creator could dare to produce a world filled with misery that is not our fault. He went on to describe such a deity as capricious, mean-minded, and monstrous. It is a sharp accusation, but it captures a question many have wondered. When tragedy strikes or the innocent suffer, we often interpret the wreckage as evidence that God is either powerless or uncaring. But the writings of the prophet Isaiah offer a different framework. He describes a creator whose thoughts and methods operate on a dimension further out than our own, where the distance between his logic and ours is as vast as the space between heaven and earth. From this vantage point, apparent chaos at ground level is actually part of a structured design, invisible from the perspective of the single dot. This perspective invites us to look at the history of these claims. We can track how this logic functions by examining the specific records of those who experienced this hardship firsthand. By reviewing the track record, we can see if these periods of hardship are accidental glitches or if they form a consistent, purposeful pattern. The records begin with a clear warning. Jesus explicitly told his followers that they would face many trials and sorrows. In this framework, hardship is a promised reality rather than a surprise. The Apostle Peter describes the mechanism behind this. He compares trials to a fire used to purify gold, an intense process designed to strip away what is false and prove the authenticity of a person's faith. We see this play out in the life of Joseph. He endured a long sequence of personal disasters, beginning with betrayal by his brothers, followed by enslavement, and eventually years of false imprisonment. For over a decade, his situation looked like a total failure. Yet that specific sequence of events placed him in the Egyptian royal court at the exact moment needed to save an entire region from a lethal famine. A similar pattern appears in the history of the Israelites, who spent 400 years as enslaved laborers in Egypt. The biblical account frames this generational suffering as a necessary forge. It provided the specific environment required to build the national resilience and identity they needed before they could function as an independent people. This pattern of utilized adversity repeats with the account of 3 men ordered into a blazing furnace for refusing to abandon their faith. In this instance, the intervention didn't stop the fire. Instead, the men had to step into the flames for their faith to be witnessed by the king, leading to a total shift in the empire's perspective. This leads to the central event of the entire record, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Despite living a life without fault, he faced the extreme of unearned suffering through a public execution. But the narrative identifies this execution as the instrument used to secure a broader rescue. By allowing the injustice to reach its conclusion, he used the event to defeat death itself. Across these 4 cases, a consistent formula emerges. Adversity is not an accident or a loss of control. It is the primary mechanism for achieving a larger victory. This evidence reframes the problem of misery. Rather than viewing pain as proof of a broken system, we can look at the promise in Romans 8:28, which states that God causes every variable to work together for the good of those who love him. It is the work of a master weaver. Disparate threads of injustice and grief are organized into a functional design. Paul argued this design is so secure that no calamity, persecution, or death can sever us from this divine love. When bad things happen, they no longer need to be viewed as the whims of a fickle creator. Instead, they signal that a preparation for victory is underway. This offers a path to rest. You can set aside the burden of your immediate perspective and trust the pattern established by this overarching track record.